Hey Honeybunches, it's Phoebe. Welcome back to another video, a cookbook review video. I've been cooking a lot, as you can probably gather from the number of cookbook reviews that are coming your way. Today we're reviewing the Smith Deli Cookbook, which I got really lucky and scored at the library. Timing. If you're not familiar with Smith Deli, they are part of two sister recipes made by these two cool ladies in the very vegan hub of Melbourne, Brunswick Street, Fitzroy, Brunswick area. There's Smith and Daughters, which is like a restaurant, and then this is a deli which has lots of takeaway food you can get, or deli sandwiches that are known for being are these vegan, because there's so much mock meat in them, and they have a whole grocery section. It's a very overwhelming, incredible vegan experience to go there. I've been a couple of times, a handful maybe, but I won't lie, it's incredibly intimidating going to either of their joints. They know how to do their food, and yeah, I think they're world renowned. They're known for producing vegan food that you're like, are you sure this is vegan? Because the mock meat element or the cheesy element is just full on, yeah, sensory taste receptors. So this was a fab exercise for me because I didn't have to go there, but I could benefit from their food, and I love cooking, so I'm in my element. I feel like I've been cooking from it non-stop for the past month, but I've actually only made 18 recipes. I mean, they're all proper recipes with, more often than not, quite long recipe lists because the flavours are so intense, which I'll get to at the end. But yeah, I've made 18 recipes. I think that's a good selection. I didn't tend to make things, well, I didn't make things that definitely couldn't be gluten-free or fine for my allergy, but mock meats and stuff that are quite hard to replace. But the recipes, and there are heaps of them, that I decided to make really only required maybe tiny swaps like tamari instead of soy sauce. Maybe there was only one occasion where I had to use gluten-free flour instead of plain. Yeah, there were a lot of recipes that are already gluten-free, so yay. As I said with the flavour thing, they really know what they're doing. We felt like my family, I mean I did feel this way, that it was really eating restaurant food when I was making something from this, because the seasoning is next level. But they make hella comforting stuff, a lot of classics, a lot of Australian-y type classics as well. And I would happily cook the rest of the things that I didn't get to in this. But yeah, without further ado, hope you enjoy voiceover feed taking you through the 18 recipes I made. The first thing I made, Honeybunches, I started off with the basics-ish and made the satay sauce. Look how good it looks. It's in the saucy section at the back. And this recipe was great because you didn't have to have a blender. You just popped all the ingredients in a pan at different stages, and yeah, they just sort of melted into one another with a bit of gentle stirring action, and they came together into a thick, seriously perfectly flavoured, balanced flavoured sauce. And then it recommended using it in this Thai peanut noodle salad, which was delicious. You know, it's simple stuff. I have a very similar recipe in my first cookbook. It's one of those things you might overlook, but it really is one of the most delicious things on the planet. Kind of like a cold pad thai, but peanutty type situation. I cheated a little and went the pack of coleslaw shredded veg route, and yeah, it was so good. I fried up some tofu, that's the mock meat I guess I opted for, and chopped up lots of herbs. Wow, so many. And yeah, combined that all together. And yeah, and I did have some fried shallots to sprinkle over. You can actually get them from where the coconut milk and curry paste and stuff are in mainstream supermarkets, but they're delicious. Add nice crunch. This was so good, just the perfect type thing for lunches or work lunches, school or work, that's what I meant to say. Yeah, I started off making a few, I guess, tamer things because my grandparents were staying when I was making the first handful of recipes you see here. Yeah, that salad was great. Yeah, so the second thing, in keeping with that sort of tame-ish route, perhaps familiar things that my grandparents wouldn't bat too many eyelids, they wouldn't bat too many eyelids at, was chili. And this had a base of TVP. Yeah, I know I've said this before, but I keep using it in recipes, but it really isn't a fave because it's just a bit bland, a bit nothing. I know it's a carrier for stuff, and this did have so many seasonings in it, but even so, it's just soy flour, and you know, like mince is fatty and juicy and it just has a lot of weight to it, and even though this had like all the things, it just didn't have that much weight to it. I didn't get a pick of me eating it, but we had it over like roast potatoes, and it was great, but just nothing special. The next thing I made was creamy pesto salad. There's a number of potato salads in the cookbook. They all look delicious. I think they always have one at the deli and they just like play around with flavours. This one was pretty tame, like the pesto didn't really come through in the mayo dressing, it did a bit. But it was delicious. I think I added rocket. It wasn't something that was in the recipe, just for a bit of greenery. Love that. And the end result was a crowd pleaser. It was great. Had some onion, cherry tomatoes in there. Great picnic thing to bring. Perhaps not my favourite thing in the cookbook, but still good. Right. The only sweet thing I made from the cookbook were these brownies, because they were already gluten-free, and they say it's like the one thing they have at their deli that is for their gluten-free friends. I haven't been there since being gluten-free, so I don't know how that would go, because I don't think they label a lot in the gluten-free department. Just a PSA for gluten-free people. Yeah, so the batter of this was quite icing-like, you can see, and the end result was quite cakey. Like I was looking for that cracked sugary top, even though the pic didn't have that, but yeah, it was more on the cakey side. I could have cooked it for less time, of course. It was a little bit fudgy at the bottom there, but yeah, not my fave brownie recipe, but still delicious, obviously. I made feta. That was at the back of the cookbook. I prefer this feta over the hot for food one, I reckon. It's so good. You need quite a bit of olive oil and like vinegar to drench the stuff in when it's marinating in the fridge, but it's so delicious, and you can use it in salads like this one, Greek watermelon. I was like, oh, will this work? Because you've got like the heavy feta, which is tofu, with like light juicy watery veg, but it was great. We had this on like a hot summer day with family friends were coming over, and it was perfect. Everyone loved it. Delicious. And I didn't make my stomach go a bit weird with the savoury fruit what's going on situation. Okay, cam&nina, my new favourite thing. If you cook eggplant and capsicum and tomatoes in quite a bit of olive oil until they go super mushy, it creates the best tasting thing when there's like capers and olives there. It's so good. Yeah, I toss this in pasta, but even just making it as part of a meal prep, which I might make in a video coming up, would be great. You could have it like on bruschetta. So good, so delicious, simple but fab. I made this German potato salad, and it had bacon in it, but like fake meat bacon has gluten in it, so I was like, oh, I'll make rice paper bacon. No, I didn't even soak the sheets, so they turned into just like crispy pieces of riceness, and then they go mushy anyway when you put like any sort of liquid on them, so that was just a fail. I just didn't need to make the bacon because all the other things in it are delicious. It had like sauerkraut and pickles and celery and Dijon-y mustard dressing, and there was lots of dill in there. This was great. A fab way to eat sauerkraut. It worked really well, and yeah, I didn't need to try so hard with the bacon. I ended up just crumbling it on top, but it just looked like rice shards. It was such a weird choice of mine, but you know, those things happen because I am human. And I was probably having like FOMO, wanted the bacon in there, but just didn't need it. Yeah, and ignore the crumb on my chin. So the next thing I made was mulligatawny soup. I'd never heard of this before. They describe it as like the only positive thing, or one of few positive things to come out of Britain's colonial past. I would agree that this soup is a positive thing. Like, it is very delicious. It's like a Indian-y, like very gentle curry lentil soup. It had like a whole apple in there. That's what those like appley looking chunks are. So it's just very well flavoured. Like, the spices are gentle, it's comforting, it's very filling, and I was a fan. Yeah, I described it as Moorish. I'd say that's the word for it. Super good. I made their mac and cheese sauce recipe because I was sort of thinking, well, they would probably know how to make a really great mac and cheese sauce. I should try it. But hello, look how much vegan cheese is in it. They say it's not like your cashew ones or your really starchy ones. I mean, it did have cashews and quite a bit of starch in it, but it also had like lots of vegan cheese that you then return to a pot after you'd blended it. Yeah, it made a heck ton. I'm still working through the sauce that I made. But you, yeah, heat it after you've blended it, and so any cheese chunks can melt. It was quite runny, but that could have been my error. Anyway, and then I put it in the fridge and it firmed up, and then we had it on cheesy pasta. It's very rich but great tasting. I don't know, I've had a lot of vegan mac and cheeses, so I'm sort of just like, yeah, they're all great, yeah, it's good, we can move on. But it was delicious, no knocking it. But it made a lot. Yeah, okay, the next recipe, larb. I had not heard of larb, but I had heard of this concept. It's like a Vietnamese-y with like lemongrass, chili, ginger, mince type of thing that you toss with like bean shoots and cherry tomatoes and lots of herbs like mint and Vietnamese basil, and have it in lettuce cups and you eat it like a handheld situation, and it's delicious. Yeah, this was good. Definitely a better format I've had TVP in. It was very flavourful, but even still, like, just TVP, it's just sort of like the base note is like so neutral and floury. I don't know, it's just only so good. And again, ignore the crumb on the chin. I decided to make their lentil soup because I thought, well, it's probably on another level because it's such like a seemingly simple thing. And it was on another level because it had red wine in it. So it sort of tasted a bit like a mushroom bourguignon. You can see that was the error. I put one too many stock cubes in there, and so it really was quite salty. I mean, we've had it like runny down and that's good, but when you put too many stock cubes in, it's just a bit annoying. Another issue with this is like it had red lentils and brown lentils, but because like brown lentils produce a bit of sludge when they cook, that was kind of in the soup when you were eating it, which probably no one else noticed apart from me, but I know they produce a bit of sludge. But yeah, it was a great soup, no complaints. This recipe, mushroom cassoulet, sorry, mind blank. This was one of my favourites. So unassuming. It was, didn't have that many mushrooms in it for a mushroom cassoulet. It had like leek, lots of celery. It was meant to have a celeriac, but it's summer here and it's not the season for them. So I just left it out, added more celery and more cannellini beans. I'm going to be making a cassoulet recipe and popping on the blog soon because it's so good. You top it with breadcrumbs, and I tossed mine in a bit of garlic oil, which was a very good choice. Well done, me. I didn't get a pic of the interior, so it looks like a crumble, but it's savoury, I promise. So delicious, so comforting, and it's not as like heavy as a stew, but just really good. Yeah, I have a lot of recipes to get on the blog, so bear with me, Honeybunches, but I'll try. What am I doing? Oh yeah, Spanish like baked bean type of thing. I think I brought the wrong beans. I cooked them from scratch. They were Lima beans. It wanted Great Northern, but I couldn't find them, and I read that these were a good substitute. The sauce just didn't stick that well to the bean. That was my main complaint. So they didn't really like absorb a lot of the flavour, but the flavour was great. Like in the sauce, it had like a fennel in there. It was really tasty. Will I make it again? Probably not, because I just don't feel like baked beans a lot. Yeah, there was this risotto I made, really glad I did. Had like lemon and peas and broccoli, and you cook the broccoli separate to like the base of the risotto that's cooking there. Then you blend it up with a lot of mint and parsley and lemon, and then you stir that through at the end. I'm pretty sure this also, or you do this partly because you don't overcook the broccoli that way, and so it doesn't become like a stodgy mess, and it still has its bright green colouring and flavour. Yeah, this was really good. Even though it was like a rice dish, a risotto, it felt very spring-like and summery and quite uplifting, if you can use that word to describe it. Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. Very scrumptious. Oh yes, cabbage rolls. Okay, excited to talk about these because I had great success. I tried making cabbage rolls last year and there wasn't enough flavour. It just tasted like crunchy cabbage with a bit of rice and tomato. So I went to a Middle Eastern deli and found cabbage leaves, which is a great choice. Made it really easy. So if you ever find them, do pick them up and go and make cabbage rolls. The flavour in these was awesome. The tomato sauce had like lots of olive oil and sugar and stock, I think, so that was going to be flavourful. The rice mushroom dish, they're the two Nelsons we're looking after when I'm filming this, or when I filmed it. Great cooking companions. The rice didn't have that much. I mean, it had like mushrooms and sweet paprika and stock and lots of herbs, but really the tomato sauce, like sort of being absorbed into the cabbage roll when it cooks, is what makes it go to another level. It made a lot. It was great. Best leftovers ever. They're just so delicious. Such underrated, great food. Yeah. One day, hopefully, make it to Poland and can try the real deal. But vegan, maybe. Hopefully. Yeah, and we had this with like a gratin, which is the last recipe I'll share. And I know gratin is not Polish, but the potato element semi is, right? And so it was just a great dinner. Yeah, very happy with my cabbage roll success. And the last recipe I made was scalloped potatoes. I know I have a recipe for this in my second cookbook. It's not super complicated, but the picture just looks so good. And apparently I hadn't had enough potatoes of late, so I made it. I had to swap out the flour for gluten-free flour, and the properties aren't really the same, so it was a bit lumpy, but then it melted when it was in the oven and all worked out. But my goodness, this had like a cup of vegan butter in it, and it was very rich. But you fry rosemary and thyme in the butter before making the roux, and that is a technique I'm going to adopt for sure. Before you go, Honeybunches, I know you've just watched the vid, you've seen the food, you probably want to get out of here, fair enough, but I just thought I would mention a few little criticisms that I would just plant in your head. The first one being, I just feel like the food in this is very, like, I mean, it's appropriate because it's from a deli, but you browse through this and you're like, great, that would be delicious, like, every night of the week. But the amount of, like, flavour in them and the ingredients list means that I feel like it's a bit unsustainable and not really appropriate for everyday cooking, just because it's so intense, and I don't feel anyone would, like, eat this sort of food, like, every day. And probably none of you would cook from this in the same sort of intensity and short period of time that I have. So it's probably just my problem I've discovered since cooking from it in a very bizarre way. But the ingredients list as well, it was quite hard to use up all the ingredients you were purchasing for a recipe, so it did create a bit of food waste. Like if you don't have a herb garden, using up a whole bunch of Vietnamese mint, which is quite a strong herb, for example, is a bit tricky. And then the second little criticism, which is fine again because, like, I don't know who actually writing this cookbook, but these ladies are like busy bees, so I get it. But they don't necessarily explain why you're using a certain ingredient or doing a certain technique, which makes you feel a bit out of the loop and like you're not really actually learning something. And it makes you a bit captive to like their whole ingredients list, because like maybe it's the crucial ingredient that holds this whole recipe together. I guess because I cook so much, I didn't like have any major fails by omitting things because I kind of know what would work. But even I was like, it would be handy to know why we're doing this. But I get it because, you know, to put a cookbook together when you're running 2 restaurants is a thing. So yeah, but in conclusion, I would highly recommend the cookbook. It's probably one of my favourite ones that I've ever cooked from, honestly, and the style of food is just very fun, makes vegan cooking exciting and delicious for like all taste buds, I feel, if you just monitor like, or things I've already said. But yeah, I'm gonna buy one, I think. I don't think I've wanted to cook from a cookbook more than I have from this one. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed the video, Honeybunches, and I will see you in the next video, and I'm sure some recipes from there will inspire my own going forth. So yeah, 2020 could be a really delicious year in the HBOT space. I'll see you soon. Lots of love. Bye.